The Simpsons is the longest running primetime sitcom in the US. Beginning with its first episode on December 17th, 1989, it's enjoyed unparalleled success for an animated series, with 29 seasons as of 2018. The show has also expanded overseas and has aired in many different countries with multiple dubs including Arabic, French, German and Japanese. The Simpsons also has a long history with video games. Starting with Bart vs. the Space Mutants in 1991, The Simpsons have at least 27 games and multiple ports, the latest being The Simpsons Tapped Out, a mobile game by EA. As mentioned, the first game to come out under The Simpsons label was Bart vs. the Space Mutants for the NES. However, only a month later, another game would come out, this time for arcades by a famous Japanese studio. In March 1991, Konami, creators of Castlevania and many other hit titles, released their take on a Simpsons game. Using their already existing engine for the acclaimed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade title, they created a game that would go on to become a huge hit, which is still fondly remembered today by many fans. However, despite its popularity, it's a little known fact that the Japanese version of the game actually contains some interesting differences not seen overseas. This video will be taking a look at these differences and how the game was changed for the Japanese market. To begin with a little more background info, the Japanese version of the game was released August 11th, 1991, 5 months after its English release. It's likely that some of these changes were the result of Konami having extra time to polish the game some more, but it's also possible that some of the alterations were due to the company simply feeling that they may work better in the Japanese market. For instance, a major change between the English and Japanese releases is the difficulty level. It was common during this time period for games to be easier in Japan, and the website TV Tropes has a great page listing many examples of this over the years. One common explanation offered for this is due to the fact that renting games is legal in the West but actually illegal in Japan. However, you can also occasionally find games where the inverse is true, and it really just depends on the specific publisher and their own views on what a particular market would prefer. One way that The Simpsons was made easier is that the Japanese version allows the health bar to extend beyond 100% as the player collects more health items. When the player reaches over 100% health, it is displayed in yellow over the original health bar, and once over 200% in green. However, in the Japanese version, players must actually press the attack button in order to pick up health restoring food items, which slows the process down a little. But to add to this, the Japanese version also has quite a few extra food items to help build up the player's health even more. For example, upon defeating Smithers in the final battle, a bunch of food will pop out from under his cape. However, in the English version, not a single item appears. What makes this even more interesting is that you are immediately after thrown into the climatic battle with Mr. Burns, meaning the extra health would be especially useful for players. Also, in this very same battle, attacking the fixtures next to Mr. Burns' portrait will result in first a hot dog and then a turkey to appear, increasing health even further and again completely absent in the English release. The Japanese version doesn't just contain a bunch of extra health items though, but also extra weapons. A few examples are this mop you can pick up in level 4, which is completely missing in the English version, and this bomb on the ground at the start of level 6, which again can't be found in other versions of the game. Speaking of bombs, one of the more interesting changes is the addition of new nuclear bomb weapons that you can find scattered around the levels. These are exclusive to the Japanese release and kills all nearby enemies with area damage that can also hurt the player if they are too close. Other changes to reduce difficulty include significantly powering up the slingshot item, so it now kills everything in only one hit. In the English version, it's only around as strong as a normal attack, which is a huge increase. Then another change was made so that you can now use weapons whilst jumping, making things feel a little more fluid and perhaps even easier. It wasn't just the difficulty though. A few other interesting changes made to the Japanese version includes the scoring system for defeating enemies. In the English release, all enemies are only worth a single point, no matter how strong they are. Over in Japan though, the most basic henchman enemies are worth 100 points, while stronger enemies are worth much more, all the way up to a whopping 20,000 points for defeating Mr. Burns. Konami also changed the top scoreboard to accommodate the new point system. In the Japanese version, the characters' heads have been moved to the left to make more room. The default scores now also have an extra 2 zeros added to the end. Completing levels now earns players a vitality bonus based on how much health you have left, allowing you to rack up points even further. The bonus rounds at the end of every level also have an extra time bonus too, once again meaning that the Japanese version gives you many more points than over in the West. But that's not all. There was another change made to the ending so that more characters appear on screen. In the English version, only the Simpsons family are seen. Over in Japan though, Milhouse, Principal Skinner, Nelson, Sherry and Terry, Santa's little helper, as well as Snowball 2 all appear too. As mentioned earlier in the video, it's not known why these changes were made, but if they were general improvements and revisions, it's curious how they weren't implemented into later English releases. In fact, the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 re-releases allowed you to play the Japanese version, but only as a separate mode and only after completing the game at least once. It's also interesting that the TV show wouldn't even air in Japan until over a year following the game's release. This means that changes to things like the ending, where extra characters from the show were added, wouldn't have had the same effect as they would in the West. What do you think about the two versions of the game, and which do you prefer? Please let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and consider subscribing if videos on regional differences like this are something that you are interested in. Until next time, thank you for watching.